You are now watching the True Mets Talk podcast live stream. We will be going live shortly. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
Shallow right field, stumbling start for Stewart. Throws to deep left field by Alvarez, and that's going to go away. 4 straight games for the second time, and he's homered in 4.
And we are live on the True Mets Talk podcast. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you all for joining me here today in the live chat. And if you're going to catch the replay, we have an early stream today for you all, talking all things New York Mets baseball here right on the channel. Before we get into anything and everything related to the New York Mets in this stream, please hit the thumbs up as always on this stream. Subscribe to the channel if you are not already subscribed, to go ahead and join the live chat here. We're going to be going over, obviously, this last series that the New York Mets went and swept from the Washington Nationals. We'll talk about Luisangel Acuña's raging hot start, and we'll also talk a little bit of Mets and Phillies coming up at you all starting tonight for the 4-game set. I personally won't be available for the pregame stream nor the postgame stream tonight. Hopefully, I will be for both of those tomorrow. So Rob's got you covered on his channel for that. And that's why I am talking Mets baseball here on a Thursday afternoon at 2:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, I understand a lot of people have work, they've got errands to run, and it's not really the peak time to talk Mets. But as I mentioned, if you're on the live chat, drop those comments, hit the thumbs up. And if you're on the replay, make sure you drop your comments about anything and everything we talk about in this stream in the comment section down below. We got Cindy in the chat. Cindy, thank you so much for joining me. CP, hope you're doing well. LFGM, I'm doing fantastic. Any day that I get to talk about some New York Mets baseball with you all is a fantastic day, and today is absolutely no different. Okay, let's get into it, because obviously Rob and I were live for the post-game stream last night talking about the New York Mets victory in terms of completing the sweep at home 10-0 against the Washington Nationals. You see all 3 scores here up on your screen, and you have a little bit of, I guess, series box scores from our New York Mets and certain guys in the lineup. And again, you don't see Luisangel Acuña's name because the next slide is going to be dedicated solely to Luisangel Acuña with how good he has been. But again, obviously, in this series, we were kind of wondering when the Mets offense was going to start to take off. Jake Irvin was looking pretty strong there, and then Jose Iglesias gets the job done in that 8th inning to tie up the ball game, and the rest is history. The bullpen held it down, and the Mets end up going to the 10th inning and winning it in walk-off fashion. And that came at a time where the New York Mets, for the previous, I believe, 20 innings or so, going back to that Philadelphia Phillies series, right? They did not score all but 1 run. And we were wondering, in this crucial stretch of games, right, with this many games left, and at that point it was under 15 in this crucial NL wildcard race, was this Mets lineup going to be up to the task, and were they going to turn it around? And guess what? In game 2, they left nobody wondering whether they were going to turn these bats around with a nice 10-1 victory. And obviously in game 3, I'm kind of speeding up here in terms of giving you all the synopsis. We exactly know what happened in this series. It was a 10-0 victory. The New York Mets exploded for 9 runs in the 4th inning. You have a Brandon Nimmo 3-run home run. You got Tyrone Taylor getting in on the action. Pete Alonso, everybody, Luisangel Acuña, everybody was getting into the action in this last game last night. And obviously the New York Mets starting pitching, which we will also talk about here in just a second, not just about the offense, but the starting pitching. The best starting pitching rotation statistically in the month of September around the entirety of Major League Baseball was definitely up to the task. You see, Sean Manaea didn't get the win, unfortunately, in game 1 with how well he pitched over those 7 innings. Tyler McGill in game 2 gives the Mets 6 scoreless innings. He's been absolutely on a roll ever since coming up from AAA for an injured Paul Blackburn, who I guess we do have a little bit of news about Paul Blackburn as well. We'll get into that. But also, again, Jose Quintana who has been absolutely superb for the New York Mets, especially over his last 4 starts out. There's really nothing else to say about Jose Quintana. He has slammed the door on all critics, right? He is amidst a scoreless streak, right? It's 23 and 2/3 innings pitched of scoreless baseball for Jose Quintana. He's only given up 1 earned run in his last 4 starts. He is absolutely going out there every 5th day and giving the New York Mets exactly what they need on a night in and a night out basis. I got Ethan in the chat saying, yo, CP, what is good? Shout out, salute to you. Salute to Junior Swingman as well. I appreciate the support on the channel. Early stream today, Junior, I know, and that's why probably a lot of people are going to be catching this on the replay. Again, for those of you all who just missed it, I just mentioned I'm not available for the pregame or the postgame today. That's why I'm talking New York Mets baseball with you all right now. Rob's got you covered those streams, and hopefully I am back for both of those streams in our regular scheduled programming starting tomorrow and through the weekend, because this is absolutely such a crucial series coming up, this 4-game set that we'll talk about against the Philadelphia Phillies here in just a second. But again, please, if you missed the post game yesterday, go ahead to that post game, smash those thumbs up and hit the thumbs up and vote in the live chat poll in this live chat right now in this stream. I have a little bit of a tough question for you all. Again, with how good this Mets rotation has been for the entirety of this season, right? But not only the entirety of this season, when it matters the most in September, who are you all most confident in this 4-game set of who we'll see? Luis Severino, we'll see David Peterson, we'll see Tyler McGill, and we will see let's see here. We will see Sean Manaea. How can I forget about him? So who are you all most confident? And again, I just gave you all a little bit of a sneak peek in terms of the series preview that we'll be doing here in just a second. But who are you most confident in? Drop those votes in the live chat poll, and I guess we'll circulate back to it later on the stream to see what you all voted. But again, right, the pitching, the offense, the Mets are really surging in the month of September. And I know the offense caught a little bit of a cold streak. I understand that. We are all worried. We were done making excuses for them. But at the end of the day, you look at the 16 games so far that the New York Mets have played in the month of September with 10 left to go. They are 12-4 and possess the best record in the major leagues over that span. And who is second right behind them with an 11-5 record in that same stretch? It is the team that they will be welcoming today into Queens, the Philadelphia Phillies. So again, it just sort of goes into this storyline of how important this series is going to be, and also the rest of the series from here on out, right? The Atlanta Braves and the Milwaukee Brewers as well. All these teams are competing for these last 2 spots, essentially, in the Diamondbacks, Padres, Braves, and Mets. And you know what? It's going to be a tough race. It's going to be a close race, especially when you look at the quality of competition the Mets are going to face. But again, this is what October teams are made of, right? This is what October teams are made of. So if the Mets make it with this schedule, then they'll be riding high into October. And maybe, who knows, we might see a Cinderella run. And I'm getting way too ahead of myself, but it just makes me excited. It's do or die time for the New York Mets. It's absolutely do or die time. And they've been up to the task over the last 16 games in the month of September, possessing that 12-4 record. All right, so you see here at the bottom of your screen some notable players that did extremely well at the plate and had great at-bats, in my personal opinion. And 2 of these guys, the Mets have desperately needed for the majority of this season to turn it around in the middle of the order in Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo. Pete Alonso goes 5 for 13 in this series with that home run, and he got 5 RBIs in that middle game as well and helped out Tyler McGill tremendously. And this is something where Pete Alonso is either going to turn it around. I posted a video about him against his kryptonite pitch, being the slider, a couple days ago. Check that out if you missed it. I posted his numbers, his career numbers year by year since 2019 when he entered the league against the slider. And the numbers off the slider weren't pretty. But in that game, in this series, we saw him sit back, wait. The slider didn't really have tremendous break to it, and he just put his bat out there and he hit it to the right field wall and off the right field wall for a double. That's the type of swing that we're going to need to see from Pete Alonso. Because again, this is his career high in sliders seen, almost 100 more sliders seen in this year with 10 games left to go than he saw even last year, which was his career high at that point. I believe it was like 583 sliders in 2023, and this year is already at like 670 plus. So again, pitchers know what Pete Alonso's weakness is and what it's been for the rest of this or the entirety of the season so far, and they're going to continue to throw him that pitch. But awesome to see after the team meeting, the impromptu team meeting was held that all these reporters have been talking about between obviously David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza, that the player to speak up, right, and not be shy in this very tough time for the New York Mets in terms of navigating this tough schedule over the stretch was Pete Alonso. And you see what he responded with on the field. Not just with his words, but on the field in terms of the production that we saw against the Washington Nationals. Brandon Nimmo went 2 for 6 this series, obviously with the 3 RBIs, with one swing of the bat in last night's ball game. And Tyrone Taylor, a guy that I also dropped a player spotlight standalone video on my channel just yesterday about, and how good, solid of a fourth outfield option he's been for the New York Mets. Goes 5 for 11 this series, has a 6-game hit streak, I believe, in the last week, right? In crunch time in September, Tyrone Taylor is 7 of his last 19, somewhere around that ballpark. I thought it was 8 of 20 at one point, but I believe ESPN clocked him in at 7 of his last 19. And he also adds in 2 RBIs in this series. So again, this was something that was supposed to happen. We talk about sweeping versus series wins. The Mets set themselves up for prime position to sweep a series after taking the first 2. As you all know, and as I will state later in this stream, when we talk about tonight and the pitching matchup that we're going to see, Game 1 is the most important, and you set the rest of the tone. You set the tone for the rest of the series, I should say, in order to work your way to a series win, which the Mets desperately need against the Philadelphia Phillies, in sort of thinking back on that sour taste that was left in all of our mouths after that series loss in Philadelphia, which really should have resulted in probably a sweep, as Rob will say, but definitely a series win. After game 2, they got up 4-0. But please, can we take a second here to sort of talk about Luisangel Acuña? And he deserves his own slide today, and that's why I'm up here, and that's why he's part of the title of this YouTube stream. Luisangel Acuña's hot start with the New York Mets. Obviously, it's a very short sample size, being 5 games in the month of September here in 2024 after his call-up. Obviously, he's getting extended time with the Francisco Lindor injury, and we now know, which actually just broke per Andy Martino about an hour ago, that Francisco Lindor is not going to be in tonight's lineup as well. So again, expect another Luisangel Acuña start, because at this point, the Mets can't afford to start Eddie Alvarez, bar none. It has to be Luisangel Acuña and Jose Iglesias until Francisco Lindor is able to get back into this lineup. And I know a lot of people are worried about the Francisco Lindor situation. He was very adamant and upfront that he was probably not going to be seeing any time in the Washington Nationals series, and he left it open for interpretation whether he was going to miss 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, up to 5 games, he said. So we will monitor, when and if he will be back for this Philadelphia Phillies series. But if it's one thing that I know about Francisco Lindor, is that he is an absolute warrior. He's a gamer. And we know that this lower back injury and everything, right, in the game of baseball that you need your lower back for, in terms of running the bases, in terms of the sharp cuts at shortstop, in terms of swinging the bat and throwing the ball, the basics of the mechanics. This is going to be a tough injury to navigate, and we are all behind Francisco Lindor in terms of supporting him and giving him the proper rest needed, so he's out there, or he's able to get back out there and compete at the highest level possible, that MV caliber type of play that we saw before this injury. But you know what? At this point, you got Luisangel Acuña, the 22-year-old prospect coming up for the New York Mets, and he has made his stamp on this team, especially in his first 5 games. Again, I know there's a lot of naysayers out there, a lot of people who told me that he wasn't ready, especially when I was advocating for a call-up of Luisangel Acuña in the month of September. We're not even talking about June, July, August that I was talking about this. I was talking about when the September call-up happens, right? It wasn't Luisangel Acuña. We know it was Pablo Reyes. Again, you had the opportunity to call him up. It was DJ Stewart, and I was sitting there scratching my head. Why is this kid not coming up? Well, you know what? Things change, plans change, or maybe it was in the plans all along, but he is now here and he is perfect. On base percentage, right, is 467. He's getting on base and he's doing it in a variety of ways. He's a free swinger, but he's getting base hits. And you see here at the bottom, 7 of his first 15 at-bats are hits. And 3 of them are extra base hits with 1 double and 2 home runs. One of those home runs coming last night, and obviously he's got back-to-back nights with home runs, really showing that power. That power, again, I'm not sure how consistently it's going to translate over the full course of a season, right? Over the course of the next week or 2 weeks of the season and also going into next year. I don't know if that can translate well at the major league level, but you see he's got the tools to still showcase that gap to gap power, if not that home run power. And you saw, especially on a ball like last night, a ball that was riding in on his hands and it was kind of tailing inward. I don't remember if it was a two-seamer or if it was some sort of off-speed pitch that was tailing in on him, but he got his hands around it beautifully, right? He worked through the baseball, and that is a testament to not only how quick his hands are, but how good his overall bat speed is, and he pulled that baseball out of the yard. The slugging percentage here is .933, and you see with the first 2 OBP plus slugging at the OPS of 1,400 in his first 5 games. Ladies and gentlemen, Luisangel Acuña, regardless of what he did at the AAA level consistently over the course of the entire season, I understand he hit 257. I understand his OPS was at 680, somewhere under 700, which was the main talking point for all these people that told me he should not be up because he is not ready and he needs more AAA time. Well, you know what? He's showing you all, he's showing me, and he's showing this Mets organization why he is ready despite those stats that he put up in AAA. So that's it. Francisco Lindor is not starting tonight. I would fully expect Luisangel Acuña to hold that position down. And he's not only holding down second base. The New York Mets are not hiding this kid at second base, right? Your star shortstop is on the sideline. And instead of moving the veteran over to take over for Francisco Lindor at shortstop, being Jose Iglesias, they said, no. They said, we're going to trust that this 22-year-old kid, Luisangel Acuña, is going to come up here and play shortstop for us at a high level, both with the bat and defensively as well. That is something that is very beautiful. And I think that goes over a lot of people's heads. And I'm here to tell you all that that takes a lot of trust because shortstop is the captain of the entire team when you're out there on defense, but especially the captain of the entire infield. And he has taken charge out there and he's made the routine plays when they mattered the most. So again, I have nothing but good things to say because what he's displaying to us and his mechanics, his day-to-day approach, there's nothing bad to say. There's no critiques that you could have unless you're still buying into this narrative and you can't let this narrative that he's not ready for the major leagues go. And I'm well beyond that. And with what we're seeing right now, I think every Mets fan at this point, he's up. Everybody should be well beyond that. So that's what I got to say about that. I see some more comments here in the chat. Let me get to some of these comments here. Appreciate you, Doug. Hello, fellow Mets fans. LGM. Hello to you, Doug. Thank you for joining me here very early in this stream. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much. No Lindor tonight, as Doug is saying. We got Steven in the chat as well. Think Lindor won't be back until Brave series. That is certainly possible. Again, that sucks because for such a huge series, 7 games back of the division, I'm not trying to sell you all that the New York Mets are going to be division winners or even make a run at this. But again, the Phillies are a very good baseball team and you want your best personnel out there. And obviously that means Francisco Lindor. So again, I also, and as does every other Mets fan, we want a peace of mind. Like we want peace of mind that Francisco Lindor is okay. And at this point, we know what was stated by Francisco Lindor that this is going to be something that he's going to manage with for the rest of the season, but also that he's very confident that he will be back at some point this season. He doesn't know if it's going to be 3 games, 5 games, 7 games, or whatever, but he will be back before an inevitable end of the season / playoff series, wild card series start. So that is the good news. Again, we need him out there, but for the time being, that's why I threw this up here. Luisangel Acuña has absolutely been, quote unquote, knocking it out of the ballpark. No pun intended. But again, the pun was intended in every way. Let me just stop lying real quick. The pun was intended in every way. He has been absolutely phenomenal for this Mets team. Salute to my guy Ricardo in the chat. What's up, CP? Where's my guy Quintana in the poll? Jose Quintana is not going to be pitching against Philadelphia. So the live chat poll is only the starters that you will see against the Philadelphia Phillies. Unless I somehow made an error in my options that I inputted in those options, right? Those are the guys that you'll see against Philadelphia. So that's what the main question is surrounded. In the live chat poll, if you all are here, right? And if you're not here, turn on obviously notifications, but subscribe to the channel so you all have access to this live stream chat and for you all to come chop it up with me. Again, working my way to 1,000 subscribers. If you all have any friends or family that are Mets fans that you know would love at this point in time in the season to talk New York Mets baseball with such a great community that we have here on this channel, on Rob's channel, between the two channels and all the streams that we do together, please let them know to subscribe to the channel. Again, trying to work my way up to 1,000 subscribers. So close in getting there. I definitely appreciate it. The turnouts have been awesome on the post-game streams. The views, everything has been awesome because everybody wants to talk New York Mets baseball. The vibes are up, and it's tremendous. It's tremendous. Again, like I said, we used to pray for times like this, especially going back to last season. So we are going to enjoy the Mets playing good baseball. And that is exactly what they have done in the month of September specifically, but also this entire year, as they are already up to 84 wins, 84 and 68, 1 win shy of my preseason prediction of their overall win total, which was 85. So no problem, Ricardo. No problem, Ricardo. You are right, though, and you are very valid. I just went through Jose Quintana again with everything that's been said about him, especially when he was struggling. He's got an innings streak that he is scoreless with in terms of not giving up any earned runs. That is 23 and 2/3 innings, and he's only given up 1 earned run in his last 4 starts. He's been pitching tremendously, and again, you have every right to ask me where Jose Quintana is in that live chat poll. This is the best question of them all from Ty here. Appreciate you joining the chat, Ty. Can the New York Mets take 3 of 4 against the Phillies? We'll talk about that here in just 1 second when we do our Mets versus Phillies series preview. Again, just for those of you all who are tuning in today, and I appreciate you, Christopher, being here as well. Hey, CP, is it true our ace is coming back? That is a great point. You are reading my mind, Christopher. Hold on 1 second here. Public service announcement. I am not available for the pregame or the postgame tonight. I'll be back with you all tomorrow alongside Rob for those streams, so don't go anywhere. But in the meantime, make sure you're checking out Rob's channel tonight. He's got you with the pregame and the postgame coverage. I so wish I could be there again. Any single time I miss a stream, especially down this crucial stretch, I always feel bad because I know you guys want to talk Mets baseball. I want to talk Mets baseball, but again, life happens and I need to be places, unfortunately, on this Thursday night. And I'll be back with you all for this weekend series, I promise you. So again, to Christopher's point, I think we got the point here in terms of what I was trying to get across to you all about how good Luisangel Acuña has been in this short sample size. Again, I know it's 5 games, but when you bring up a kid like this that did admittedly so struggle in AAA, to see him produce like this at the major league level gives you confidence not only this season, but also in future seasons to come that this guy can really do it. This kid can really do it. And you have him for 2025 and beyond. And that feels really good, especially when you look at, what we gave up to acquire him in Max Scherzer last trade deadline, where the 2023 season was already in the gutter. So again, awesome that he's here. Hope Francisco Lindor's back. He's not going to be back tonight. He's already been listed as out and unavailable today. And I would fully expect when this Mets lineup does drop, it hasn't dropped yet, that we will see Luisangel Acuña in there. And for those of you all who are also scoreboard watching, please give me an update if you could. I cannot go and check the box score of what the Braves are doing right now. They've got an early afternoon game the last time I checked because, again, I'm scoreboard watching, and as much as the players don't like to admit it, they're scoreboard watching as well. The Braves were up on the Cincinnati Reds 4-1 in the fourth inning last time I checked. But again, please, somebody correct me if that has changed. All right, as Christopher was saying in the chat, let's talk about the New York Mets ace potentially making a return soon, right? Per the New York Post, in an article that they dropped just 13 hours ago, the reports are that Kodai Senga feels 70 to 80% healthy, and he is making a strong push in terms of making a potential rehab appearance with AAA Syracuse sometime this weekend. Again, there's a lot to unpack here and the uncertainty, and that's why I said quote unquote possible, because nothing is set in stone here. Nothing is for certain, and I don't want to talk about it like it is for certain, because when you see this quote, which apparently came directly from Kodai Senga when they interviewed him, I believe it was last night or the night before, about how he's feeling and what his potential next steps are, for him to say that he's 70 to 80% healthy is kind of like, we'll take it, because that's obviously better than 60 or 50 or 40%. But again, that's not the full 100% that you really want to hear from a player that's trying to make his way back from the second injury that's kept him out of basically every single ball game except for one this season. So take it with a grain of salt. Carlos Mendoza also was quoted saying that he really doesn't know. They're cautiously optimistic. David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza are cautiously optimistic. But again, the word cautiously, the word possible, the theme here is that we just don't know until he feels 100%. But all indications work to the point, work up to the point that he is trying his best to make a rehab appearance this weekend so that he is potentially able to appear for the New York Mets if and when they need him next week against the Braves. And I know that there was some early reports about Kodai Senga potentially coming back to start for the New York Mets, but you know what? I see 70 to 80% in this quote from the New York Post in their article. And I also see that Kodai Senga is not trying to make full rehab appearances. He's only trying to go out there and pitch an inning or two. So that tells me, right, without knowing the full context of anything, because this is so uncertain, for the 100th time I'll say that on this stream, this points to the direction that he will be making bullpen appearances if we do see him at any point before the playoffs. It will be bullpen appearances. Again, that's my speculation, but that's exactly what I would predict here. I really hope that he is able to come back, because any appearance of Kodai Senga, whether it's in the starting rotation or the bullpen, is better than not having him. I will replace Adam Ottavino with Kodai Senga in a heartbeat. I don't care in what capacity Kodai Senga makes his way back, as long as he's 100% healthy. We don't need him at 70 to 80%, especially for a possible re-injury of anything, his shoulder or the calf that injured him this last go around against the Braves team, where he was kind of rolling in that start and goes down. I want him, and we all want him at 100%. And he needs to get there before we even think about him making an appearance. But again, if he does, I would imagine it is going to be out of the bullpen. So if you all disagree, let me know in the comment section. But everything that I'm reading into here before I went live and just doing my research as soon as I woke up today and heard this news, right? And if you all didn't see the Anthony DiComo article, I actually haven't got a chance to read it as well. But I know that he is obviously very reputable. He also wrote an article earlier today on his X account, and he posted it for you all to read about the potential next steps and the scheduling of Kodai Senga here down the stretch of this season. So, really hope that Kodai Senga gets to 100%. We need him at 100%, but he needs to get there first before we actually see him back with the major league team. Kendrick has given me a little bit of an update, 8-1 Braves. Okay, you can basically chalk that up as a W for them, in which case they'll move up to 1.5 games behind the New York Mets in the wild card standings tonight. Obviously, the New York Mets can make that back, push that back down to 2 with a win. And that's exactly what we'll talk about here in just a second. I appreciate the update, Steven, as well on that. We got Laura in the chat. 3 of 4 against Phillies and 2 of 3 from Atlanta. Hi from Ecuador to everybody. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. We definitely appreciate that. Salute to you watching all the way from Ecuador as well. That is awesome. It's awesome to know that my podcast and my streams and my channel is making it global. That is an awesome thing to see. And thank you for the support and subscribing to the channel. I definitely appreciate you being here. I definitely agree with you as well. 3 of 4. You have to win series, right? That is the talking point between Rob and myself every single time the Mets start a new series. Win the series. The cherry on top would be, the sweep. But again, as long as you stack series wins, especially 3 or 4, which I think is so integral against the Philadelphia Phillies, you're going to be in good hands. No, I am not going to the game, unfortunately, Christopher. I will be at the Milwaukee Brewers series in Milwaukee to end the season. I'll be there for 2 of that 3-game set, but I am not going to the game tonight. Nope. I wish. I really wish. And did you all hear Brandon Nimmo as well in his post-game, I guess, on-field interview with Steve Gelbs? He's basically saying, the fans, they've been awesome, but we need them to show out in full force this weekend against the Philadelphia Phillies. And I guess not really this weekend. It starts today on a Thursday, but you know what he meant. I know what he meant. He wants the fans to show out. And there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of sort of talking points about, why the stands are empty. Obviously, it's a weekday. Rob and myself have already talked numerous times about this. Stuff happens. But again, the New York Mets are playing exciting baseball. And if you can make it out there, right? If you can, life gets in the way. Again, I'm not available for a couple streams today. Life gets in the way. If you are able to make it out there, obviously the New York Mets and everybody would love to see you all in the stands, especially if you're in the New York area. No, I don't want Kodai Senga in the bullpen, and I don't want anybody to get this talking point misconstrued with what I actually said. I think it will be out of the bullpen because he is talking about only throwing 1 or 2 innings in a rehab assignment. And obviously the rehab assignment is going to be expedited because the AAA season is ending and also the Major League season is ending. So if he's only throwing that few of innings, which means that few of pitches, I would assume that he's not going to be able to have enough time to ramp up the workload to be a starter. So that's my only point. Of course, I'd love to put him right back into this rotation. But again, you look at the rotation, how well they've been doing. They also are a rotation that doesn't necessarily need for Kodai Senga to come back. It would be an absolute luxury with the way that they are pitching on an everyday basis, 1 through 5, from Minaya all the way down to McGill. So again, I just think, right? I think with the uncertainty of this whole conversation, I think it might be out of the bullpen instead of starting. But I also could be wrong. I have been wrong many times this season. So we will see what happens. Great comments here. I appreciate everybody. Doug, Ricardo, Frank in the chat as well. Appreciate you, Frank. Yeah, I must admit, I admire the momentum the Mets hold and have. Yet please stay healthy and do this thing. Finish it off. LGM, Frank. 100%. I definitely agree with you. The momentum is definitely in the Mets' favor. Obviously, this is a clash between 2 of the hottest teams in September, the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies. And this is going to be an absolute bloodbath of a series. It's at our place. It's in Queens, whereas the last go around obviously was in Philadelphia. 4-game set kicking in. You see the lovely OMG sign. Shout out to J Mac Customs, who makes these signs and gave it right to the New York Mets. He does a great job. Make sure you guys go check him out and his website, as Rob pointed out last night. Brandon Nimmo's the guy that's been turning it around, and we know what happened in this series, this last go around against the Phillies. The New York Mets started off with a bang in game 1 behind a strong Jose Quintana start, and they won 11-3. The offense did their thing, and they started off game 2 with that same momentum, going up 4-0 against the Philadelphia Phillies. But exactly, we know what happened in game 2. The offense after the 3rd inning disappeared, right? They disappeared, and Luis Severino made a couple of mistakes to Bryce Harper. And we'll talk about that here in just a second as well, because Luis Severino obviously is the starter today. And then in game 3, Christopher Sanchez, who we'll see again for the Philadelphia Phillies, went out there and basically mowed the Mets lineup down, with the exception of that late inning Tyrone Taylor solo home run. But we know what happens thereafter. Obviously, the Mets dropped that game on a walk-off hit by JT Realmuto to lose the series. Again, this is redemption time, because that series the Mets just had with the Phillies in Philadelphia was supposed to be a series win. And honestly, with the leads that they had at the juncture of the games, right, in both cases in games 2 and 3 that they had, they blew it. They should have won the series minimum. And a lot of people, right, we talk about this often, and it really, we need to put that to rest, because again, this is a rematch now at this point. It should have been a sweep. It could have been a sweep. Should have been a sweep. Would have, should have, could have. It doesn't really matter. It wasn't, and the Mets only took 1 of 3. The Phillies lineup, this Phillies team is no joke. When you make mistakes, they will make you pay for it. And we saw the Mets get off to hot starts in games 1 and 2. Obviously, they took the late game lead in game 3, but the Phillies just find a way to linger around. They linger around until you make those mistakes, and they make you pay for it. And that's exactly what they did in games 2 and 3 of that series. But a fresh series is on deck. You see here, game 1, 2, 3, 4, 4-game set in Queens, and you have your pitching matchups here. Mets versus Phillies kicks off tonight. I believe a 7:10 p.m. start. I think there's some unusual programming in terms of the channel that this game is going to be on. I thought it was on Fox. I could be mistaken. Obviously, I think tomorrow's on Apple TV Plus, and then you get the Sunday Night Baseball game in Game 4 between Zach Wheeler and Tyler McGill on ESPN at 7 o'clock, with the national, I guess, all of America really watching that game on Sunday Night Baseball. So Mets record in September is 12-4. I just told you they were the best team. They are the best team in the majors in that span in the month of September. And also, how good really has this Mets rotation been, right? From Sean Manaea to Tyler McGill to Jose Quintana and everybody else involved. Well, the Mets rotation, their ERA collectively as a unit in the month of September is 1.77. That is the best ERA of any starting rotation in Major League Baseball at that time. They have been holding it down for the New York Mets. And obviously, the rest of the groups on this team have to go ahead and contribute as well. We saw in that series loss in Philadelphia, the bullpen faltered a little bit as well in games 2 and 3 to set up those losses, coupled with the lack of offense after the 3rd inning in game 2. The offense and the bullpen need to show up. And I really hope we see the same thing out of the starters this time around in Queens versus the Philadelphia Phillies. And we know how good that lineup is. Tonight we have Taijuan Walker versus Luis Severino. Again, as I mentioned before, earlier in the stream, before a lot of people, I think, joined, because we're up to 45 people in the chat. We were down to 18 when this first started. Again, this is an early stream, so I appreciate you all being here. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe. And if you're watching the replay, also please make sure to hit the thumbs up. Check out the post game. Check out my player spotlights that I've done. Check out everything on the channel, because I do it for you all. I love talking Mets baseball with you all. But this is a game, right? You got to take game 1. You got to have that mojo going. Take game 1, because this pitching matchup really favors the New York Mets. I'm sorry. I know that Taijuan Walker pitched 3 scoreless innings against the New York Mets in Game 2 just a couple days ago. But you talk about a guy that is having an abysmal season in a Philadelphia Philly uniform, right? Coming over from the New York Mets. He's got a 6.29 ERA, which is not great at all. He's struggled, and the Phillies understand that he's struggling. So that's why the last 3 outings or so, the last 3 appearances that Taijuan Walker has had have been coming out of the bullpen, especially in long relief situations, as was the case against the New York Mets. So again, we know what he's going to throw at the New York Mets, right? He's going to try to set up the fastball. He's going to try to get that splitter over. I believe he has a changeup as well, if I'm not mistaken. So the Mets need to go out there and just do their thing. We saw the explosion that they had, the offensive barrage they had against the Washington Nationals, right? There's no reason that you go into Game 1 with Luis Severino as good as he's been the last couple times out. Obviously, a couple mistakes to Bryce Harper. Hopefully, we don't repeat those mistakes, right? We don't need to set up Bryce Harper with 6 straight sweepers, because at that point, he just knows it's going to be he knows what's coming, and he's going to knock it out of the yard. So again, take Game 1. Tonight is crucial. I think tonight is the most crucial game of this series until we see what happens with Games 2 and 3. You got to take Game 1 against arguably their worst starting pitcher in their rotation, because you take a look at Game 2, Christopher Sanchez is on the mound. We know exactly what happened. We know the pitch distribution that he utilized in his 87 pitches against the New York Mets. Last time out in that Sunday walk-off win for them, he threw 45 sinkers and 30-plus changeups and 11 sliders. He's got a 3-pitch arsenal. He's got insane movement, and the New York Mets simply could not figure him out. So again, David Peterson, that's a rematch as well, because David Peterson went up against Christopher Sanchez in that game, and David Peterson definitely deserved more offense because he pitched his ass off. But you got to take Game 1. This is a pitching matchup that's supposed to be in favor of the New York Mets. Taijuan Walker versus Luis Severino tonight. In Game 3, you have Ranger Suarez versus Sean Manaea. Do I even need to speak on Sean Manaea and how good that he has been for this New York Mets team over this entire season? He is going to get a fat paycheck, a big paycheck, whether it be from the Mets, and presumably we're hoping that David Stearns gets it done. I'd like for him to get it done before tonight's start if he could. Obviously, probably not realistic, but I would sign up for that situation if it presented itself. But at the bare minimum, we know he's going to opt out. We know he's going to make a ton more AAV on his new deal over however many years that he gets himself with this end of season. And the Mets are going to have to pay up, because he proved why he is one of the best, not only pitchers in the NL, definitely one of the best, right behind Chris Sale, who he's emulating with his mechanics, lefties in this entire league. So that's Ranger Suarez versus Sean Manaea. And then Game 4, obviously former Met Zach Wheeler, who the Mets missed on the last go-around in that 3-game set in Philadelphia, is going up against Tyler McGill. Tyler McGill is coming off of back-to-back starts where he has pitched absolutely fantastic. There seems to be a common theme here with Tyler McGill, though, is that obviously the pitch counts are what they are. He's around 85 to 88 pitches, maybe even close to 90 pitches after that 6th inning. But the Mets don't want to extend him. Carlos Mendoza seems a little bit more reluctant to extend Tyler McGill into the 7th inning than he is, obviously, a Sean Manaea, but also a David Peterson. We saw him try to take David Peterson the extra mile in terms of going that 8th inning in Game 3 of that Philadelphia Phillies series just a couple days ago. It backfired, right? But again, it seems to be a common theme here with Carlos Mendoza and Tyler McGill that he does not want to extend Tyler McGill past his limits. And he's usually capped out around 85 to 90 pitches. And if he's around that area going into the 7th, it seems like he's not going to get the 7th. We'll see if that remains true depending on how his start goes here in this series in Game 4 on Sunday Night Baseball. But this Mets lineup, they are turning it around at the right time. Francisco Alvarez, I have not mentioned on this stream, is taking better at-bats, right? Tyrone Taylor is swinging in a very hot bat. Luisangel Acuña we talked about. But Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo, that middle of the order production that we saw in this series, right, against the Washington Nationals, that needs to be the case in basically every single game from here on out, right? 84-68, 10 games left to go. You got the Phillies for 4, Braves for 3 at their place, and then the Brewers for 3 at their place. I believe the Brewers already clinched the division, so we'll see how they kind of line up and how they approach that Mets series. That could be a huge win in terms of the Brewers resting some guys that they otherwise would play. So we'll monitor that. That could be a very huge advantage for the New York Mets. And looking forward to that series that I'm going to be present in person for in Milwaukee. But again, we can't think till that point. Right now, it's the Philadelphia Phillies tonight at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Luis Severino is getting the ball for the New York Mets. So again, that's it for me. That's my series preview. The Mets know what they need to do. Better bullpen production, right? Obviously, the bullpen has been solid, and they were solid in this national series. But you take a look at games 3 and 2 against the Phillies, Edwin Diaz really didn't locate all that well on that fastball that he threw to JT Realmuto for the walk-off. That should have been out of the strike zone. Obviously, Luis Severino, not in the bullpen, but making those mistake pitches for 2 Bryce Harper home runs in that middle game. The pitch execution needs to be flawless. There's almost zero room for error in terms of mistakes and pitches that you throw this Philadelphia Phillies lineup. But I really do think the Mets are up to the task. The vibe around this team, this clubhouse, and everything that we're seeing on the field right now, it just seems different. And I could be, cautiously optimistic right now, and I am, and I'm going to be, until the Mets prove me and prove us wrong. But I think every Mets fan, and myself included in that, should be confident for the rest of the season in terms of the Mets being able to punch their ticket into October baseball. Yeah, 100%. This is exactly right, Ethan. Limit the mistakes that you made the last time out, and you should be good. The Mets played almost perfect baseball in that Phillies series. Besides, obviously, the offense not showing up, but I'm talking about pitching-wise. They almost played a perfect series, besides a couple of Luis Severino pitches, outside of that one debacle of an inning with Jose Butto and Danny Young, and obviously that one pitch from Edwin Diaz. If you take back 3 of those pitches in that series, we might be talking about a whole different series in which the Mets may have won. But again, bygones are bygones. I don't really care about that series. You're still 2 games up on the Braves, or at least 1.5 as of right now, because the Mets or the Braves are looking like they're going to win against the Cincinnati Reds. And you got to go out there and take care of business. We can scoreboard watch all we want, but the New York Mets are in the driver's seat. Make no mistake about that. They are in the driver's seat, and they control their own destiny. And that is something that oftentimes when you see a team trying to punch their ticket into the playoffs, they don't have that luxury of doing, but the New York Mets do. Frank, much respect to you, CP, and this channel, plus everyone on this channel. It's growing. It's growing tremendously. And I really hope I can get to 1,000 subscribers maybe before the season ends, after game 162, but definitely by playoff baseball. And hopefully I'm talking about Mets playoff baseball here on this channel. I appreciate everybody in this live chat. Doug, Ty, Ricardo, Ethan, Kendrick, Steven, Laurel, everybody in this chat. If I missed you, I apologize. Jim, thank you all so much for the support. You all make this channel what it is. And I'm just grateful to be up here and being able to talk about New York Mets baseball with you all. Hopefully you all like the new layout. This is the new True Mets Talk podcast layout, a lot different than what I had going on earlier this season, especially when the season started. This is also the same layout for the True Mets Talk podcast. Every now and again, I try to get innovative with my sort of, graphic skills. So hopefully you all find this visually appealing and easy to follow along, because that is the name of the game. I want to make sure you all are following along with the visuals, not only what I am talking about. So I appreciate you all being here. Again, I know this is a very early stream. We're at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on a Thursday. Thank you all so much. Hit those thumbs up buttons. Check out the post-game stream from last night. Hit the thumbs up on that post-game stream as well. And subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be here for the rest of this season. I'm going to be here for playoff baseball should the Mets make it. And I'm going to be here for the offseason. I'm going to be here all the time, basically, is what I'm saying. I'm never going to stop talking Mets baseball. So again, don't go anywhere. Even when Mets baseball ends, I got you all with off-season content coverage, the latest news, the latest rumors, free agent targets, trade targets, all that good stuff. I got you all covered. And please, hit that follow button on the CP New York Sports X account and Instagram account. I definitely appreciate you all. That's going to be it from me on this stream. We talked about the sweep that just happened. We talked about Luisangel Acuña. We talked about the latest news regarding Kodai Senga. Oh, I guess we didn't talk about Paul Blackburn. Paul Blackburn, obviously diagnosed with spinal fluid leakage, I think it was, has been getting some injections into his back from what I understand and might be good to go, I believe, next week. But again, I don't know how the Mets could entrust in him coming off of such an injury with the back with how good this Mets rotation has been pitching. So Paul Blackburn, it looks like he will be back, barring anything unforeseen. In this 2024 season regarding the injury, but I just don't know what the Mets are going to do with him in terms of utilizing him. Maybe they put him out of the pen, right? Maybe Kodai Senga actually, if he does come back, does get thrown into the starting rotation. I don't know how it's going to play out, but the good news is that these guys are getting healthy at the right time and trying to make their way back. So I appreciate you all. Thank you all for stopping by on this early stream, this early afternoon stream. Again, I know it surprised some people. Even Junior up at the top in the comment section was saying this is an early stream for today, but you all are here, and I definitely appreciate it. Ricardo's saying CP Brewers are still playing for seeding to get that bye. Great point as well. Didn't really think about that. Again, I'm not really concerned with what's going on in terms of seeding. I know the Brewers and their fans are worried about that. I'm worried about the Mets punching their tickets into playoff baseball because I need playoff baseball back for this Mets organization. It's been a great year and year one under Stearns, and this organization is really in great hands. So again, trust in David Stearns. I definitely appreciate you all. That's it for me. See you all tomorrow. Again, Rob's got you all pregame and postgame tonight. I am out. See you all tomorrow. I'll be back on the camera with Rob or just myself, depending on his schedule, talking Mets baseball. I appreciate it. Let's go Mets. Huge series on deck. Huge series on deck. It's now or never. And I hope you all are ready. Buckle up, Mets fans. It's going to be a wild ride for the rest of the 10 games. Let's go Mets. See you all.
Thank you for watching the True Mets Talk podcast. Make sure you're tapping on that notifications button and checking out all the latest content on the